new training aid. It's been on the market for a little while. It's my first pass at using it. Thanks Sean, thanks David for sending it in there. We're going to put it through its paces and see what sort of common problems or specialty problems it can help us solve. As a coach, I'm always looking out for what training aids would make the job that I have, and also therefore the job of the golfer, that much easier. And so what does it serve the purpose of? It serves to bridge that gap between feel and real. It serves the purpose of providing both coach and also player feedback that shortens the learning curve. So let's see if this thing can help me shorten my learning curve and discover how it might help you. Let's give it a shot. Let's put this thing through its paces. So it goes on very easy. Just hold it against my right leg. Velcro's on. Clearly the use case is moving trail wrist from wherever it is at address into some additional amount of extension or movement to extension. I can immediately see that one of the problems it's going to help me solve for the players that I'm going to use it with, and specifically, I mean, if I need to use it with my game, I can certainly do that as well, or the viewers out there, is it's going to help you solve returning to impact with too much loft. The sort of problems that would show up if you're returning too much loft to impact is high launch trajectories, shorter distance than you would otherwise be able to achieve, and also the potential that your contact is compromised because as you're returning aloft, the club head's getting closer to the ground earlier, lifting the arc up and away because we have too much loft and we don't want to fat it, and therefore we introduce the chance that we might thin it. Anyway, enough talking, let's get to some hitting. So, address, I don't feel my hand touching the housing, kind of moving from this first parallel place to the middle of the backswing. I feel like my right wrist ordinarily would want to go and touch the housing, so it's this phase of the swing, just shy of when the club's parallel to the ground to mid backswing, that I'm moving my wrist into that extension, which then gives me a great probability, if I hold my hand in the housing for a long period of time, that I'm going to produce lower dynamic loft at impact. The objective here, if I look up and I see the TrackMan data, should be low launch trajectories under 30 degrees. And so we've got 25.8 degrees on 61.9 and roughly 61 miles an hour ball speed. So when these two match up and I've got this sub 30, lower than 30 degrees, I know that I'm delivering the most lofted club in the bag, my lob wedge, really efficiently. So a good way to use this, and it's going to require you to do the work, clearly it's not going to do the work for you, is give yourself that pre-rehearsal of that trail wrist being back in the housing just prior to ball touch, just prior to contact. Then move the right wrist into the housing and then hold it in the housing. Yeah, lovely again. And I'm going to demonstrate this use case by using a tool that tells us where the face is in space, right? Face is king. Tells the ball where to launch from a direction standpoint, both horizontally, so left or right of the target, and also vertically relative to the ground. So that face being king, it'll also collaborate with the direction the club's moving to create curve. So what do we call the direction the club is moving? Club path. So we've got club path and face angle that then determine the direction the ball is going to curve. After, the face angle determines where it will launch. So we're going to work all the way back down target line. What I typically see is a face angle that's pointing out to the wall, because the lead wrist is in some amount of extension as the trail wrist is in some amount of flexion, right? And so you see what happens now if I take my trail wrist and I extend it back into the ProSendr. What also happens is that face angle starts to look more to the sky, doesn't it? And it's that motion that almost every amateur player that I'm going to say is above a 5 handicap could use more of. The secret sauce in playing really good golf above and beyond, making really solid contact, is having great face control and doing the work in the backswing to get the face positioned in a functional place that allows us to return the face more square because of the good work we've done in the backswing. So, one last demonstration, done incorrectly, I'm not touching the housing, I return to impact, the face is to the right, I work my right wrist back into the housing, fully extended into the ProSendr, back to impact, face square, and it should result in some amount of draw. There we go. launched online, trying to draw against the wind. Just a really nice shot. So now we've got a solution to what would contribute to the face that you impact the golf ball with being too open. But there's also another feature, or benefit, I probably should say, another way that I just feel in transition I could potentially use the ProSendr to incentivize also what's called lining the shaft up on a functional swing plane. So we're going to pan back down target line here, and I'll describe for you another error pattern that I see less experienced players, so amateur players, make. At a transition, the butt of the club is not looking directed down to what it's trying to strike, right? The butt of the club not pointing at the golf ball, that's what we're trying to strike. It's pointed some amount down, and so we're coming at a transition and we've got steep shaft pitch, like the shaft represents the side of a skyscraper, versus representing, let's say, the angle of an escalator, right? So, how I feel like the ProSendr might work, I've got some amount of right wrist extension, but then if I kick the shaft back in a flattening direction, I increase the pressure into the ProSendr housing with my right index finger knuckle. There we go, right index finger knuckle again, formally with my lob wedge. It was to incentivize some sort of feedback that says, okay, the face is more lofted, but in this case, we're going to work on applying a little bit more right index finger pressure into the housing, which then lines the shaft up, and I've got the face in a nice orientation. Yeah, nice one. Cool, so yet another use case. So this is my first pass at using this. I love the construction, I love the ease of use, and I'm sure as I continue using it, it'll become a pretty important feedback tool, and I'll probably discover other use cases. Maybe there's some putting use cases, but I'd love to hear if you've started using it, the things that you've discovered that you might be able to use it for. So leave those comments below, and if you enjoyed this, please like and please subscribe. All the best.